Just imagine you're sitting in a hospital. You're waiting for the nurse to take you back to your room. You're almost too tired and exhausted to follow her. When you get there, you have to begin the process of dialysis. It's a grueling process where, through a catheter, your blood is removed from your body, cleansed through a machine, and then returned. Many times you get sick, you convulse. It's hard to say what's going to happen because every time it's different. But it's always difficult. Against odds, you're sitting there trying to get through it until you can receive a living donor, or you can receive an organ donation. Many times, it simply doesn't happen. Now imagine instead of you, it's a loved one waiting for an organ donation. A parent, a sibling, a child. Today I want to try and persuade you to become a registered donor because I've seen this process for myself. When my older sister was 16 years old, she was diagnosed with Goodpasture's disease. It's an autoimmune disease that your body attacks its own organs. Within a month, her kidneys were in complete failure, and she had to begin the process of dialysis. She was a lucky one. Within 6 months, we had a living donor, and she was able to get the kidney transplant. Many are not so lucky. In the time that it took for her to get her body healthy enough and to get well enough to receive her donation, we saw 3 young children pass away from kidney failure. Today I want to tell you about the need for organ donation, a lot of the myths that surround organ donation, and how the recipients benefit. Let me begin by explaining the overwhelming need. According to the 2005 World Almanac, each year 20,000 people receive organ donations, but 6,000 will die waiting. As you can see, the main need is for kidney donations. Let's put this into a daily perspective. 50 people every day receive a transplant, but 15 people will die waiting. Their bodies just can't hold out any longer with the processes and the medicines that they need to wait for the transplant. But let's stop thinking about it as numbers. These are people. They're your parents, your children, me, you, your friends, your family. Research performed by Childress and Livermore in their book Organ Donation, they documented that since 1988, there have been over 390,000 successful organ transplants. 80% of these are from deceased donors. 122,000 people in the U.S. are currently on the waiting list waiting for organ donations. Every 12 minutes, a new name is added. Most of these people won't live long enough to receive organ transplants. And as you can see, one deceased donor can save up to 8 lives. Another 100 can be saved through tissue donations. Now that you understand the overwhelming need for organs, let me dispel some of the myths that you may have heard. Many people believe that doctors, if they know you're an organ donor, won't work as hard to save your life. It's simply not true. Doctors are required to do everything they can to save the patient. They won't take an organ from a patient to try and transplant it if there isn't a potential good match. And they won't do it. They don't even discuss organ donation until after the patient is deceased. Some people believe that the rich and the celebrities can bypass the list and buy organs or move up on the list, and that's simply not true either. Organ donations and matches are based on the severity of the condition, blood types, and the potential match. You can't bypass the list. Some people believe that their religion doesn't allow for organ donation, and that's not true in most cases either. Most religions consider it the ultimate gift of organ donation. Some people think that they just can't afford to be an organ donor, and that's not true either. The family that's donating the organ pays no expense for the harvesting or the transplantation. Some people think that they're either too young or too old. In most cases, that's untrue. You only have to be 16 years old to be able to register to be an organ donor. You can do it when you sign up for your driver's license. If you're under 18, you do need a parent's consent, but there's no upper age limit. Most important, it's important to let your family know your wishes. In many cases, if tragedy strikes and your family is unaware of your wishes, transplantation and harvesting your organs won't even be discussed. Now that you can see the many ideas that you had about organ donation are myths, let me share some of the benefits that the recipients have. Science News did a survey, and they researched 5 years out from the time of transplants were done. They found that in 5 years, 92% of kidney transplants were still successful, and the patients were thriving and living normal lives. 70% of heart transplants, 83% of liver transplants, and 75% of lung transplants. What would 5 years of life be worth to you? If you were diagnosed today with organ failure, what would you give for 5 more years with your family? 5 more years to see your kids grow up, to graduate college, to get married? And that's the low end of the threshold. What would you give for 20 more years with your family? Organ donation is the ultimate gift, but you have to do it before the tragedy strikes. You have to let your friends and family be aware of your decision and that you want to be an organ donor. If you don't, many times it won't even be discussed. I've shown you the overwhelming need, many of the myths that you've seen that go along with organ donation, and how lives can be changed for 5 years. And again, 5 years, imagine 20 years. My sisters lived 20 more years because of organ donation. Think of the gratitude that you would have towards someone who donated it if your loved one needed an organ. Their tragedy, although horrific, could save multiple lives, could save 8 more lives. Put the reverse into perspective. What happens if God forbid, one of your loved ones passes away in a tragic case? Wouldn't you want to save someone else's loved one by giving them organs to donate so that they can live happy, fuller lives? Young children, parents, grandparents, so that they can see their kids grow up. Consider organ donation, but you have to make your wishes known. When I was researching this, I actually found a quote by Jackie Robinson, and it had nothing at all to do about organ donation, but it seemed very, very close to the subject. A life isn't significant except for the impact on others' lives. And what bigger impact can we have on someone else's life than to give an organ?